The Council has continued its fairly solid track record on thematic discussions. Of particular relevance for human rights defenders was the consideration of the first report of the Special Rapporteur on freedom of assembly and association, Mr. Maina Kiai. His report was an important first step in the support that this mandate can provide to civil society to expand and defend the shrinking space that they are experiencing around the world. A further highlight for human rights defenders was the first ever panel on women human rights defenders.
There was the first ever panel dedicated exclusively to the protection needs of women human rights defenders. The panel brought together special rapporteurs from the UN and Inter-American system, as well as civil society speakers. The civil society speakers came from the International Coalition on Women Human Rights Defenders and from the Geneva Institute for Human Rights. It was of note that civil society speakers, women defenders themselves, were given the space to speak on this topic at the Council session itself. Because one of the strongest messages that came through from the panelists and many of the interventions from both state and civil society was that women defenders themselves need to be placed at the heart of the definition of the protection measures that they need. So the panel discussed the efficacy of national protection measures to date. And one of the key reflections that really all panelists echoed was that the needs of women defenders, given the violations they experience, need to reflect their gender-specific experience. That is to say that women defenders, whilst often experiencing violations that their male counterparts may experience, also can be targeted through gender-based violence, gender-specific attack, such as sexual violence, and including rape. The other strong message that came across throughout the session was that whilst it is important to address the question of defining effective short-term protection measures and programs, ultimately the protection of women defenders lies in changing the environment in which women defenders live and work. And that is an environment informed by patriarchy, which is reflected in social and political, legal, economic systems that repress and discriminate against women and restrict their full participation in society, including in defending rights. So we felt overall that the panel was an extremely welcome initiative. Many NGOs and many states voiced the fact that they really welcomed this panel as a means of acknowledging women defenders and acknowledging that their protection is a key task for the Council to be concerned and active on. What we did feel was that there is much, much more needed to understand the specific experience of women defenders and ways of ensuring that their work can be promoted and protected, both within the Council and across the whole UN system and the regional and national human rights system as well.
There was also a discussion on the protection of journalists in various contexts, including in armed conflict. And this is a debate that will continue in the Human Rights Council and one that human rights defenders will do well in following closely. A further thematic highlight was the resolution on human rights and the internet, in which the Human Rights Council affirmed that the same rights that apply offline also apply online. It was the first substantive resolution on human rights and the internet, and while it only focuses on freedom of expression, it's a good basis to broaden the scope of the future discussions in this area. As we look forward to the next session of the Human Rights Council in September, one of the main highlights will be a panel discussion on the issue of reprisals against those who cooperate with the Human Rights Council and its mechanisms. This will be a key moment in defining the Human Rights Council's response to the threat posed to human rights defenders who interact with the Council, who provide it with information and communicate with special procedures. A further challenge that may be expected at the next session in September is the participation of NGOs in all aspects of the Human Rights Council's work. For a number of sessions we've seen how some states are unhappy with the speaking rights that NGOs enjoy, even in informal discussions in the Human Rights Council. This, however, has been a practice that the Commission on Human Rights and the Human Rights Council has observed for a number of years, and which was also defended strongly by the President and her Bureau during the past session.